You weren't born. You were spat out of a screaming woman lying on rocks in the middle of a battlefield. Thunder in the sky, blood on the ground, a baby's cry blending with the roar of war. Welcome to Sadala, the cradle and the grave of the Saiyan race. There was no incubator, no name, no rest. They wrapped you in filthy leather and tossed you back on the ground beside two other newborns. One died within minutes, the other devoured by a predator. And you cried, loud, ugly, and that's why they let you live. Good lungs, they said. You don't know it yet, but planet Sadala is a testing ground. No cities, just shattered strongholds. No families, only clans, not people, warriors. If you can't fight, you're meat for the slaughter, literally. By the time you were 3, your arms bore burn marks. At 4, you lost a tooth fighting over a bone. At 5, you survived your first night raid. A rival clan stormed the camp and butchered half the young while they slept. You hid beneath a corpse. Coward? Maybe, but a coward still breathing. That's when you learned the lesson no warrior ever forgets. The one who survives is always right. And so, year after year, you grew. No mother, no father, only blood, sweat, and screams echoing through the desert. At 8, they gave you your first busted scouter. At 9, your first clanmate who tried to kill you the first night. And at 10, you struck back with such force, he never breathed again. Congratulations, you're now officially a real Saiyan, or at least that's what they say, because deep down, something still gnaws at you. You can't explain it, but every time you kill, your chest tightens, then burns, then falls silent. But it doesn't matter, because on Sadala, if you feel too much, you die fast, and you're not ready to die. Not yet. Childhood ends early when the world beats you down before you learn to walk. You take more hits than meals. You sleep less than you bleed. Every bite of food is earned with fists or stolen from the plate of someone weaker. And when there's no one weaker left, guess who becomes the meal? You. But here's the strange part. You don't die. Not when they throw you off a cliff. Not when they bury you alive. Not even when they break both your arms and tie you to a rock as bait. You don't die. And that starts to bother them because a Saiyan who doesn't die is dangerous. They begin to test you, sending you on the most suicidal missions, hunting energy beasts with nothing but a dagger, exploring cursed ruins no one ever returned from. Go on, orphan. You've got nothing to lose. But every time they come back to count the dead, you're still there, silent, soaked in blood, but standing. Every scar becomes an involuntary tattoo, every broken bone, a memory carved into flesh. You don't grow, you survive, and that changes everything. You start to become feared, but never accepted. The clans keep their distance, some avoid you, others try to recruit you, but no one calls you brother. You wear no symbol, bear no flag. Your emblem is silence itself. You are the clanless Saiyan, the wild dog who bites even without a master, and slowly you start to like it, because deep down, clans only serve one purpose: to betray. And you've been betrayed too many times to believe in promises of loyalty. So you walk alone, cold, calculating, feral, Sadala's lone wolf. And every time you close your eyes at night, you hear the same thing.
Don't die. Your destiny is greater than all of this.
But the worst part is, you're no longer sure if it's a warning or a curse. Meanwhile, Sadala begins to fracture. You didn't notice at first, too busy surviving the cold, the hunger, and the hands that hated you simply for breathing. But little by little, it became impossible to ignore. The war was no longer about territory. Now it was about ideology. On one side, the barbarians, savage Saiyans, blood on their teeth, pride in their screams. They believe all power comes from rage, pain, and raw combat. The more primitive, the better. Only the strongest survive. That's their mantra. On the other side, the strategists, Saiyans, who learned to wield logic as a weapon. Power analysis, squad formations, calculated combat, energy tech, elite scouters. They believe brute force is worthless without tactics. Both sides believe they're right. Both think they're superior. Both are slowly destroying each other. The planet has become a stage for a war with no villains, only egos. And you're the kind of mistake both sides prefer to pretend doesn't exist. The barbarians call you a freak, too weak to even feel proper rage. The strategists call you unpredictable, a wild animal with no purpose. Perfect. You never wanted to belong anyway, because in this world where every Saiyan thinks they're a legend, you're the living reminder that they all will fall, and you'll be there to watch, until the last one explodes. They don't call you a warrior anymore. Not now. They call you a curse, a leftover, a walking mistake, because you keep coming back. So they decide to end it, for real this time. They send you to the trenches, the ones no clan dares to name, where the ground is so poisoned with residual energy, your skin burns just from breathing, where the beasts have no names, only hunger. You're tossed in Saiyan with half a water capsule, a broken scouter, and a chipped dagger. They call it a mission, but everyone knows it's an execution. The others who went before never came back, not even a trace of energy, only silence. But you come back. Of course you do. Face torn open, eyes unblinking, dagger buried in the skull of something no one's ever seen before. You come back with half your clothes, 2 fingers missing, and a scar running across your chest, but with calm eyes. And that terrifies them more than any power level ever could. You start becoming a legend, not for killing, but for still existing. Every impossible mission, you return. Every guaranteed end, you find a way out. Not because you want to live, but because you refuse to die at the hands of someone who doesn't respect you. And by now, you don't respect anyone. You start to win. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't because you found some secret master. It was because life broke you down until only what was necessary remained. And the necessary was enough. Now you defeat clan leaders in one-on-one combat. You survive ambushes that would wipe out entire squads. You become the nightmare of those who once deemed you disposable. But with that comes no respect, only silence. No one celebrates your victories. No one chants your name. You win, and they pretend they didn't see it because you have no sacred bloodline. You're not from the barbarians, nor the strategists. You carry no symbol, no story, no legacy. You're just a functional mistake, too strong to die, too impure to be honored. To them, you're a living reminder that the system failed. That not every Saiyan needs to follow the rules to be lethal. That maybe the true warrior isn't the one who was trained, but the one who never had a choice, and that bothers them. They look at you with fear disguised as disdain. You've won battles no one else dared to fight, and still, they don't call you brother. At best, they call you beast, but that's fine. You learned to live in the desert, remember? Only now, the desert lives in you. Even in the crowd, even in the heart of war, you're still alone. Victorious, but alone. You watch brothers killing brothers, and you feel nothing anymore. At first, it hurt, then it made you angry. Now, just exhaustion. Saiyans with the same blood tearing each other apart on the battlefield for flags that change color every week. Clans that once swore eternal loyalty turning on each other over territories that don't even have names. They scream about honor, kill for pride, die for absolutely nothing. You see 2 warriors ripping each other's chests open, and in the end, the survivor still smiles, as if he's won something, but you know what he's really earned. One more grave to dig. Sadala has become a ring of blind gladiators, and the few who can still see, pretend they can't. You start walking through corpses the same way you'd walk through trees. Every familiar face on the ground is just another reminder. We're not fighting an enemy, we are the enemy. And then you ask, not out loud because no one would answer, but deep inside, why does being born a Saiyan mean being born to kill Saiyans? That question sticks to your brain. It repeats every night before you sleep, every morning before you rise, every second before you throw a punch. Why? Why were you raised to destroy someone who was born just like you? Why does everything this race calls strength come from the suffering of those who should fight beside us? And worst of all, why doesn't anyone seem to care? You start carrying something no Saiyan can bear for long. Doubt. And that doubt turns into anger. And the anger into rebellion. But you still don't know against who or what. You just know something feels wrong, deeply wrong. The nights grow longer, the battlefield empties, not because the war is over, but because there's no one left to kill on that side. And that's when it begins. The voices, faint at first, whispers during sleep, winds that sound like sentences, echoes that shouldn't exist.
End this cycle.
You try to ignore it, but the more you do, the louder it becomes. Maybe it's delirium, trauma, maybe it's just your mind collapsing under the weight of everything you've seen. But maybe not, because the more you listen, the more it feels true. The cycle must end, not just the war, not just Sadala, everything the Saiyans have become. You begin to walk differently, look differently, and deep down, you begin to believe. You weren't made to save this planet. You weren't made to unite its people. Nothing so noble. You were made to break it, to be the final scream in a silence no one dared to face. You weren't born to inherit Sadala, you were born to bury it. And deep within your chest, a flame begins to burn, silent, golden, furious. You thought rock bottom was lonely, but even rock bottom had ground beneath it. The war reaches its peak. The barbarians surround the strongholds of the strategists. The strategists launch concentrated key weapons that crack the planet's surface. Sadala's core begins to boil, and no one stops. No one backs down. Each side convinced they're one death away from victory. You run through the fields trying to save who you can, but what you witness is civilization collapsing in slow motion. Families burning, children trampled, warriors laughing as they fall. fall. You try to scream, but no sound comes out. Try to hold on, but your hands fail, and then comes the final strike. Two colossal energy spheres collide in the sky. The impact is nuclear. The planet shakes, the ground splits, the atmosphere tears apart, everything turns to dust. You wake up at the center of the crater, body caked in dried blood, the air thick as lead. You look around and find nothing. No clans, no flags, no guilt, only silence. And in that silence, something inside you screams, a scream that doesn't leave your mouth. It erupts from your chest. Pain becomes heat, heat becomes fury, fury becomes light. The ground cracks, the sky shudders, your hair lifts, your eyes shine. The golden aura explodes like a supernova, and you, who were always the mistake, are now the nightmare of history itself. The first Super Saiyan is born, not as a hero, but as the final scream of a planet that never learned to love, not even itself. Sadala doesn't explode. It fades, like a candle smothered by its own wind. What's left of the race migrates, escapes, hides, reinvents its name, creates myths, erases facts. But you become legend, not out of glory, but out of fear. The story is told in whispers, of a warrior who lost everything, who burned the sky, who destroyed a planet, or saved what was left of it through fire. No one knows your name, because no one wants to remember it, because being the first Super Saiyan wasn't a miracle, it was desperation. The scream of someone who was tired of suffering in silence. And being a Saiyan was never glory, it was the curse you were born into.